Welcome back to another episode of the Real Friends Podcast. This is episode 3, and we are back with our dear friend and Back to the Future expert, Jordan. Jordan, how are you doing?
Doing well, Alex. Thanks for having me back here, even if you keep on putting me on the spot about being a Back to the Future expert. I'm sure folks, as we go on here, are going to be able to tell that this guy don't know shit from apple butter, but just joking about it. I'm glad to be back on the show. Really appreciate that I got to be part of the very first episode talking about Back to the Future 1, of course. So, how are you doing today?
Good, man. Yeah, and like you said, if anyone hasn't seen the first episode and would like to, we're obviously going to spoil Back to the Future 1 and 2 and a little bit of 3 in this. So go check that out. But yeah, I was telling you it's been a long time since I saw Back to the Future 2. And very quickly did I realize there are a lot of nods to the third movie in this. One big one for me is Doc says how he's upset he'll never get to see his favorite time period, the Wild West, because he has to destroy the time machine.
So, do you want the touch of trivia as to why that is?
I would, yeah.
They actually were filming this movie and 3 back to back so they could try and cut out as many continuity errors as possible.
Kind of like they
Is that
did
the
with like the Matrix and I think Indiana Jones too. Yeah, that's cool. I know, I've always liked when studios film, all their movies at the same time. I think the most recent example of that is Wicked. I believe they were filming both Wickeds at the same time. So,
Oh, no kidding. That's cool.
yeah, and I know The Lord of the Rings obviously did it. They should have done it with The Hobbit, but whatever. Our I talked about it on the last episode that came out, last Friday with Kyle, that clearly this isn't going to be a monthly podcast anymore. This is a weekly thing. But I haven't talked much about movies that are in theaters, since Jordan and I's first episode. So just a couple. First off, I forgot that Mickey 17 was coming out this month. I didn't realize that its release date got pushed up. So Mickey 17 actually came out this past Friday. Go watch that movie. Please go watch that movie. That is so far this year we've had, January, February, March. January, my favorite movie was Companion. In February, my favorite movie was still Companion. And in March, after seeing Mickey 17, Companion is still my favorite movie of the year. But Mickey 17 is very good. So go check that out. We talked a little bit about Last Breath on the last podcast, the one with Woody Harrelson. I did go see that. It's good. I liked it a lot. So check that one out before it's out of theaters. We talked about stuff coming up here in March. In April, we have the Minecraft movie and some other stuff happening. So it's an exciting time to be a movie fan.
You're saying that after saying the Minecraft movie's coming out.
What's wrong with that? Dude, it's going to be
Mm,
something we've never seen before. And it's Jack Black. So, I mean,
mm.
I'm excited.
Ah,
Some of the characters kind of look like crap, though. I'm not gonna lie, they kind of look like crap.
that's my big thing. Like, if you want to do a live action Minecraft, without seeing it, what are these outfits that they're all coming in?
Yeah.
That's the big thing that I think's turning a lot of people off in the movie. Besides, oh, we're doing Gen Z humor as far
hmm
as like what the original trailer came out last year was showing. Like, no, I'm not.
I
I'm
like
not feeling it.
Steve's outfit. Like I don't mind that one.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
Well, we're gonna date this program here real quick. With it being March 8th at the time of the recording, are you going to hold true, do you think, with Novocaine coming out next week in theaters? Do you think that might top it as your favorite movie of March? Looking
of
at how everything's
March,
going.
probably. Yeah, probably. I forget when it is. There's a night this week that Regal. Oh, it's Thursday. I can't go. Regal's doing like an early showing of Novocaine. Um, and I really wanted to go, but yeah, I have practice, so I can't. But yeah, I'm hoping so. In February, I guess Niza 2 could be my favorite, but I still liked Companion more than that. Um, Yeah, I'm hoping Novocaine's awesome. I mean, it looks super fun. There's going to
Hmm.
be where that light is. I'm going to put a Novocaine poster as soon as I can get that one that we were talking about. But awesome. Well, hey, let's kind of dive right into it. So, Back to the Future 2. Jordan, you want to take the lead again?
Well, we leave off from Back to the Future 1, where Doc picks up Marty and Jennifer and basically says, "There's something wrong with your kids, Marty. Something wrong with your kids." And that leads us to the cliffhanger where we jump into Back to the Future 2 in the distant year of 2015. What a time. Big thing is the overall summary, just to make it real brief here, to give you an overview of what you're getting into in the movie. Uh, Doc takes Marty 2015, as I said, to stop Marty and Jennifer's future son from making a horrible mistake that's going to ruin Marty's future family. Then some shenanigans ensue. Biff, the bully character from the last movie, he's back. He steals a DeLorean to send a sports almanac, which is the MacGuffin of the movie, back to his past self. So we're going Back to the Future One's timeline as well. And then the whole adventure is based around that sports almanac that Marty and Doc have to get back to 1955 to keep an alternate version of 1985 from forming. And it's a very fun movie with its flaws, but it is definitely a very fun movie.
Sure, it's certainly flawed. I mean, it. I believe when it came out too, it was not accepted super well. I mean, it was the third highest grossing film internationally that year, behind Indiana Jones. I forget which one it is. I think the second Indiana Jones, and then
Okay.
Tim Burton's first Batman movie. So
Okay.
it was third behind those two, but I mean, it's still it was a budget of like 60 million. And it made almost 400 million, so still did very well. Um, yeah, I think this one is probably my least favorite of the three. But I mean, all three are very very good. So
The first one set the stage, had its charm. It was new, it was original, it was really cool. The second one, as you said, it does have its flaws, though it was, in my eyes, it was them pushing, since they, like I said, they filmed two and three back to back. I could see what they were trying to set up to be able to go into Back to the Future 3, but they had to have some tension. They needed a stepping stone in between the stories to be able to have this happen. And I guess you can say fuck George McFly as far as this movie's concerned, because Crispin Glover had some. Supposedly, there's no set in stone like true story to this, but in the DVD commentary, Bob Gale does state that they asked Crispin Glover to come back as George McFly to have a more prominent role, and there was some disputes. Supposedly, Crispin Glover wanted to have his salary matched to be the same as Michael J. Fox's. Whether that's true or not, it's hard to say.
well,
This is all speculation.
yeah, have you heard like so the thing I heard was that Crispin Glover did not like the end of the first film.
Really?
He did not like that Marty comes back and is a rich kid now and gets a truck and all these things. Crispin Glover thought love should be the ultimate currency.
Did I tell you he was in Friday the 13th, like part four or something, where his
The
character's just a
corkscrew?
yeah, he's just a horny teenager. And
Yeah.
like that is verbatim one of his lines, just like, I'm horny. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Crispin Glover, oh, I
Yep.
I like him. I do like him as an actor for the roles that he's given, but Hollywood's a cutthroat industry, especially before the Writers Guild stuff was going on. Most recently, a couple years ago, of COVID, everything, and AI being the big push.
Yeah.
But
Well, so
this has been going on forever.
and we get our first taste of AI without AI and how they
Hmm.
replace Crispin Glover because 38 minutes into this movie, my life was complete because we see the grave for George McFly and it's so perfect. But yeah, so the guy who replaced George McFly was
Hmm.
actually wearing like a face mold of
Yes.
Crispin Glover. And so that it would distract people more, that's why they have him upside down. Like that's
And
in the future.
sunglasses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sunglasses. And that's why like when they go back to the 1950s, there's no interaction between, future Marty and
Hmm.
George. Like there's nothing like that. It's all, shot in shot. So
Yes.
yeah, it's pretty funny. I'm pretty sure he sued the crap out of them for using his likeness after the movie.
That was going to be my next thing that I brought up. Yes, they ended up settling out of court, Universal that is, and the rumor had it at that point that Universal was reluctant about opening up their accounting books to the public at that point during the trial, and that had something to do with the Screen Actors Guild and rewriting the rules as to, how the pay needed to be shown to the public and things like that. Anyhow, picking
Yeah.
up to Back to the Future 2.
So, uh, when we go to the future, we go to the future on October 21st, 2015. So that has been considered, since Back to the Future 2 came out, that has been considered Back to the Future Day. Um, in college, that's actually the first time I ever watched Back to the Future. So we went to a theater right outside Pittsburgh, and they did a triple feature, back to back to
Mhm.
back, of all three Back to the Futures. And my lord, dude, like it was pretty awesome to see those movies in the theaters. Like when an older film gets re-released in the theaters, I always try to go now. Like this year we're getting Revenge of the Sith is coming
Mhm.
out back into theaters for the anniversary. Jaws is coming back for its anniversary. Um, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is coming back for, I think, its 35th anniversary. Like, yeah, we talk about it all the time. I'm gonna talk about it till I'm red in the face. Go to the movie theater. So
Right. Is it Joel's 50th anniversary coming up?
yes, yep, yep,
That's awesome.
50th anniversary this year. But yeah, the first movie we talked a lot about how Jennifer Parker was recast
Yes.
from, and lo and behold, second movie she's recast again. So we went from the lovely Claudia Wells to Elizabeth Shue. And because of that, the second movie they had to start and refilm the end of the first one to make it make
Mhm.
sense.
Now, supposedly, and I think this is documented as well, Claudia Wells, she opted out of acting in 1987 because her mother was diagnosed with cancer at that point.
Mm,
So, as a result, like you said, they had to reshoot the closing scene of the first movie to make sense of Back to the Future Part 2. She did come back, I believe it was 1996, I saw, in an independent film called Stillwater Burns.
okay.
I'm not sure how many other films or piece of media she's been in since then. I do know that the Back to the Future game, which I think was, yeah, it was the Telltale one. It
Yeah.
was one of the Telltale game story-based chapter things.
Right.
She provided the voice for Jennifer in that game, though. I do
Oh,
know that
nice.
much. So it
Nice.
was cool getting the original Jennifer to be the voice of, well, Jennifer in the video game.
Yeah. And I believe, like, Bob Gale had talked about how we talked about in the last episode, they weren't sure about sequels, right? Um,
Yes.
and I believe Bob Gale had come out and said, if we knew we were going to make a sequel, we never would have put Jennifer in the DeLorean because we didn't know what to do with her. And that's why, like, as soon as they go to the future in this one, they immediately knock her out. They use, like, the Men in Black, like, memory device to knock her out because they didn't know what to do with her.
Yes.
Um,
So picking up in the story here, we'll set the opening scene a bit more here. Going back to what I just said there, where Doc picks up Jennifer and Marty to go to the future, you see that Biff is coming out of the house, getting ready to show Marty one of his new matchbooks for Biff's auto detailing. And he accidentally witnesses the DeLorean taking off and stuff going on right there. And then that's when we pop into the Skyway.
mhm.
Yeah, it ain't a highway anymore, folks. It's a Skyway. We got flying cars in 2015. Can't wait for that year to happen.
Oh, wait. That was 10 years ago.
Oh, we're old. So this is where, like you said, the Back to Future device, Doc is forced to tranquilize Jennifer, for lack of better words here, because she's asking too many questions about the future. And Doc is a firm believer that nobody should be allowed to know too much about their own destiny or the future. We don't care as long as it's protecting Doc Brown from being shot by terrorists. So
Yep. Yep.
he's a stickler for everybody else's future, but his.
Actually, really quick, we do need to make a referendum to the first episode. So,
Mhm.
my friend Zach, who's in the play, let me know, hey, you guys kind of made a mistake, and he was right. So, I had asked you why Doc was wearing the bulletproof vest, and you said, he saw the video. But that's not exactly true. Doc pulls out the note from his pocket, and it's all ripped up.
Oh,
He had
you are
actually,
correct. Yep.
yeah, he had actually read it. So thank you, Zach, for pointing that out. I told you we'd fix it this episode, and there you go, pal.
Yep, you were correct. He was trying to watch the video, never got to that point, if I'm thinking
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah.
Yep, it was the note.
Marty kept blocking him. So yeah, it was the note. Yep.
Yep. No, bulletproof vests do have a running theme in these movies.
They do.
It,
They do.
they they make a it's a Clint Eastwood movie in this film, isn't it? That they make
Yeah.
reference to where
Is it
he's
Josie
wearing
Wales? I don't.
he's wearing like a cast iron like fireplace door basically, and makeshift bulletproof vest basically. And spoilers for a really old movie. That
It's
does take place in Back to the Future 3, and it is just as glorious watching it happen there as well.
yeah. So a fistful of dollars is the Clint Eastwood movie. So
Okay.
yeah, Biff's sitting in a hot tub watching it, and
A bulletproof vest. Genius.
yeah. So right before, I know we're bouncing around a little bit, but it's fine. It's an old movie. We can do that.
Hey,
Right.
this is why I'm here. We bounce around when we do
Yeah,
these.
exactly. So right before the hot tub scene, right? Like Marty first gets to the future and he walks to Biff's pleasure palace, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And there's a Biff Tannen museum and they're showing a video and they actually show Buford Mad Dog Tannen, who is, Biff's character in the third movie. But do you notice how different he looks in that compared to what he actually looks like in the movie?
I can't say that I took notice to that. No.
He's like completely different, like big bushy beard, like looks like a typical Western dude. And that's because that was an idea they were playing around with for the third movie and they wanted to see like what the reaction would be. And it wasn't great, so they changed it to what Mad Dog eventually was.
I got you. Okay, that's cool. I was almost wondering if you were going to a point there that maybe there was some nonsense in the commentary going on about if Marty wouldn't have changed how things were going with the sports almanac adventure, we'll call it, that Mad Dog Biff, for some reason in the Western, that would have been, just how he looked, like just a completely different. This movie doesn't
Maybe.
take a timeline serious or anything. It's all in good fun. Don't think about it, folks. Just be along for the ride. Quote Austin Powers, something along them lines.
Yep.
Jennifer's knocked out. Jumping back here. Doc lands a DeLorean in an alleyway. Jason from Courthouse Square, it makes another appearance, which is always cool. Since we had that discussion the last episode about how many different including Maxine, I believe I said, was more a very recent movie that was at least shot at Courthouse Square. Whether you see the clock tower and whatnot, I couldn't say. But
Yeah, and it's cool. We see you immediately see signs for Goldie Wilson Jr. So
yes.
the Wilsons are the monarchs of the town.
Doc and Marty take Jennifer out of the DeLorean. They lay her on her side. She's still asleep and whatnot, so she doesn't get in the way of this very important mission that Doc seems to want to change the timeline to. Yet again, despite not wanting to muddle in people's futures, he's muddling in somebody's future. So
Yeah, but I don't know why Marty, or I'm not sure why Doc is so obsessed with what happens to Marty's kid, because you would think in 2015 his Doc's really, really old, right? Like, is he the godfather of these kids? And he's like, I don't want to see that little rascal in trouble. Like,
That's a good point. I mean, that's a what if that I would imagine, as far as a Godfather would go, that Marty would want Doc to fit that role. I,
sure.
it doesn't expand far enough that you know how many like close friends or anything like that that Marty and Jennifer might have. You just assume with them being high
Yeah.
school students and everything like that, you know, getting ready to go to college, things like that.
Yeah, but
However,
we know from 2015 though that Marty's kind of a joke now. So
yes,
like, does he
yes.
have anyone else? I don't know.
Besides, well, maybe Doc inadvertently ended up leading to Marty being a joke. It's hard, even that's hard to say.
He's trying to fix his mistake. Maybe I like that. I like that theory.
Doc then starts talking to Marty about the chain of events that leads to the McFly lineage. I spice that up. The McFly lineage and how their downfall starts to unravel. He tells Marty the plan on how they'll stop it from happening. Originally, Marty McFly Jr. is approached by Griff Tannen. It is Biff's grandson. What a name.
And
And
is he a cyborg? Like, what's the idea with Griff? Like,
see, it's hard to say.
he's so metal. Like he kicks him in the nuts, and it's like he's got a titanium cup on, and he goes to punch
Yeah.
him, and he just like I think he's a cyborg, man. I think
He,
they
he very
created
well
him.
could be.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, before all this went down, another what if theory, though, looking at how stuff was going on, that means that Biff would have had a kid at some point from 1985 to 2015. His kid ended up either not being able to have a kid or something along them lines, and then they created Griff. Or it's 2015 and we're just, you know, cybernetics is cool.
Yeah.
Blade Runner was the hot movie at some point during this, and you know it picked
It's
up.
it's funny you bring up Blade Runner, right? Because they made a very conscious choice to make 2015 look nothing like Blade Runner.
Yes.
Like Blade Runner was very gloomy, very dark, and this was extremely bright. It was like an episode of the Jetsons but live action. Like,
That's a
yeah,
good
very
comparison. Yeah.
very very cool. So that
It
was
does it doesn't go for the cyberpunk aesthetic in a
right,
sense, which
right.
Blade Runner came out when exactly? Was that 90s?
No, it was before because this came out in '89, so it had to be before that.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that would probably be a conscious effort
80,
to
82
differentiate it.
actually. It came out
Wow.
it came out before both the Back to the Future movies.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah,
that they made a very conscious effort to not make the future. I mean, Blade Runner, you know, 2047, 49, whatever. The big
yeah,
difference there.
right.
Um, but the cyberpunk aesthetic and everything that was obviously an inspiration for the tabletop game of the same name, as well as the CD Projekt Red game of Cyberpunk 2077. The aesthetic very much doom gloom, corporations taking over, and we're just still in Hill Valley in this movie. And hey, Griff is a cyborg, and we got hoverboards and flying cars. You know, nothing
And
else really seemed to change.
and
We got Pepsi
self-lacing
perfect.
and self-lacing Nikes. Yeah,
Pepsi
gotta
perfect. I almost had a chance to get it when it was sold out on eBay, but they wanted way too much from it for a reseller.
yeah.
Or it's almost like that's still happening today too, with a bunch of scalpers out there for big pop culture items.
Yeah, and then so like probably one of the more iconic shots from this movie happens then in the square with Jaws 19 as the as the hologram shark comes and gets him. And I saw on X the other day someone was like, if the Jaws franchise has kept going, at some point we would have gotten Jaws in space. Which, for the Friday the 13th fans, we have Jason
Yep, I was
X,
just
so-
gonna say that. Yep.
Yeah, we
I
have
mean, they can
Jason
put
X.
Jason in space. Let's put a shark in space.
I'm pretty sure as a kid that was one of the first Jason movies I ever watched because my dad had it on DVD.
It's corny, it's campy, it knew what it was at that point. It's not a bad movie.
No,
It
it's
was,
not.
I think, I think that was one of the very first movies. It was originally the first movie I think that used like digital color correction, if I'm
Hmm.
thinking correctly.
Okay.
However, it got beat out by another movie just because of the release date of Jason X.
Oh.
I, I thought that was a neat tidbit. It was something along those lines where they did something with the filming that it was digitally done and it could have been the first. Out of all things, Jason X the first. We are meeting Griff, Biff's grandson, as I said, and his gang as they are asking Marty McFly Jr. to join a robbery. The robbery's foiled, and Marty Jr. ends up taking the fall as a result. And the whole plan to that point is to basically keep that from happening. Also, Marty's junior sister, Marlene McFly, later makes an attempt to break him out of jail, but it only causes the further downfall of the McFlys. Doc's plan for Marty is to impersonate his son, tell Griff he's not going to join. Marty follows the plan, even though it's messed up when Marty Jr. walks in unexpectedly and comes to Cafe 80s. The
It's important to note too for what you were just saying. Like, we never see any of those things play out on screen. That's all Doc is telling Marty. All of these things will happen,
mhm.
and so this is what we're trying to prevent. And he shows him a newspaper, which the use of newspapers in this movie was pretty cool to show, like, oh, you brought a newspaper back from the future and this is what it is. Oh, and the future changes, the newspaper is going to change. So I thought that was a
Yeah.
nice touch. There were some things about this movie that it made you feel like have always been a part of the Back to the Future franchise, but they weren't in the first movie at all. Like, the biggest example is about to happen right now. So we meet adult Biff, right? Or old man Biff. And old man Biff, as he's leaving, he goes, "All right, well, say hi to your grandma for me." Like,
Yep, yep.
it's so funny, which that's been a part of the franchise the whole time. What hasn't been, though, is this chicken thing with Marty.
Yes.
Out of nowhere now, Marty is completely opposed to people calling him chicken. And what I don't understand is that there's no time from the first movie to the second movie that something traumatic happened with a chicken. But all of a sudden, everybody's calling him chicken, and it makes him really, really mad.
Yeah, it is out of nowhere. They needed something to move the plot along in a
Yeah,
sense.
sure.
So again, just another little MacGuffin that it'll egg on the story to give Marty some motive as to why he got hot-headed about something so little in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Nobody
It's
calls a
just
McFly a chicken. That's the big
yeah,
thing.
yeah, right. And that continues then obviously into the third film, which we'll talk about. I'm sure not very long from now. As much as I'm enjoying these movies, I think we're gonna watch the third one, pump it out pretty quick. So,
Do you think that'll be before or after the Jason Statham movie? I think that'd be a good thing to timeline.
I'm thinking so. Jason Statham movie we're gonna put out on a Monday right after it comes out. So maybe that Friday we'll do Back to the Future 3.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Look
So
forward to that one, folks, because that one's going to be in the theater trying to scratch down notes in the dark. So that'll be fun.
yeah, so we will at the end of the episode we'll put out a schedule. I talked about in the last episode, just gave you guys an idea of a couple movies coming up, but I have an actual schedule of movies that we're going to be reviewing now. So I've got everything booked out for the next month and a half. So there will certainly be a movie in there you like, for sure. Have at it, friend.
That's where, Biff gets kicked in the groin and it's just a cybernetic. It could be a titanium
Dunk.
cod piece. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Um, This is the very famous scene that I'm sure if you've ever heard of Back to the Future, you have seen this scene where Marty takes a pink hoverboard, very iconic looking design that he takes and escapes from Griff's. I won't call him Biff, but Griff's gang at that point.
Yep, and he
And
does it. He does it the exact same way he did it in the first movie. Like, he goes up
correct.
to a little kid, he takes their thing, he breaks it, right, and then
Yep.
starts going around. And real quick, just a small thing I noticed We talked about last week that, or sorry, 2 weeks ago, we talked about how Ford really wanted the Mustang to be the DeLorean, right?
Yes.
And that didn't happen. But Ford clearly got a little something something in this movie because half the future vehicles driving around have a little Ford logo on the front. They look like Teslas, but with Ford logos.
That's a keen eye. I didn't actually notice that. That's good product placement. I mean, you got to get that budget money back somewhere.
Yeah, there was a decent amount of product placement in this movie for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, he said it, self-lacing Nikes and Pepsi Perfect. I wanted to say the self-lacing Nikes, even if they
Well,
weren't gonna
obviously.
be,
I mean, who
if they weren't gonna last, who cares?
this movie came out in 1989. We were both born in 1995, I think, or were you 96?
I was 96.
Yeah, so we were born almost 10 years later and we still wanted these shoes. Like they did a good job.
Marty is on the hoverboard then, and he goes across a pond of water, and that's where Griff's gang. It's you can't go across water on a hoverboard unless you got power. And this is where Marty's he's kicking, trying to get away. And he does end up getting away across the water and everything, and it causes Griff and the gang to crash into the courthouse and end up in jail, preventing the robbery. Oh
Yeah.
boy, future saved. Nope. We got some more stuff going on.
But this
because
is this is one of those instances with the newspaper change. Like
yes, yes it
yeah,
is.
instead of McFly. What's his son's name?
It's just Marty Jr.
Is it Marty Jr.? Okay, so
Yep.
yeah, instead of Marty Jr. being arrested on the front page, it's Biff handcuffed, screaming like I forget what he's yelling, but he's yelling, and as he's doing that, we look across the water, and there he is yelling it. Real quick about his cronies. So Match, you talked about his cronies like Match 3 and all those guys. Did you notice who the actor is for Match?
No, I didn't.
It's Billy Zane, who I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if you know who Billy Zane is, but he's the douchebag fiance from Titanic.
Wow, I did
Yeah.
not. Okay, I
Yeah.
had to look that up just to double check that. Because I needed a picture. Wow,
Yeah,
what a jump.
my wife brought that up today. She goes, "Oh my God, it's that douche from Titanic," and I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh my God, yes, it is Billy Zane. You're right."
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh, he's also Mr. Fabian in Tombstone.
Yes. Yep. Which I forget when Tombstone came out. It was around this time, wasn't
Tombstone, because I just had that open. Tombstone was 1993.
it? Okay, so yeah.
Titanic was 97.
Yep. So in a 10-year span, he went from a supporting role that does very little to like the third lead in Titanic. That's pretty cool.
That is. To your point about the newspaper changing and how we thought that was cool, I mean, obviously Back to the Future 1 kind of had that idea set with the photograph of
Right,
how,
right, they
Marty's
did.
family is going. To a bigger or a lesser extent in the grand scheme of the movies, do you remember the original Harry Potter movie, The Sorcerer's Stone? And how, like, there was stuff like that going on that I thought was really cool when those movies came out. I think uh, obviously Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, those three really emphasize some of that stuff that was going on. When anytime you'd see like a newspaper clipping or like the trading cards that had these famous wizards and stuff like that, it's a neat comparison how I'd be willing to bet that Back to the Future had an influence for that effect
Sure.
to be done in Harry Potter.
This is actually a great time to bring that up, I guess. So our very next episode, so coming out next Friday, we are going to try in one episode to hammer out a review of years 1 through 4 of Harry Potter.
I thought you were going to say 1 through 7. So 1 through 4 is manageable. 1 through 7, sweet lord.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, and Goblet of Fire, which I know Goblet of Fire gets some hate. That might be my favorite Harry Potter movie.
I would
I
agree. I definitely had that one on DVD and took it on a lot of car trips on one of them portable DVD players.
Yeah,
I watched that one a lot.
To me, Goblet of Fire feels like Phantom Menace, in that if it wasn't a Harry Potter movie, just like if Phantom Menace wasn't a Star Wars movie, people would love it. But because it is branded with that, they don't love how it fits into the franchise. But Goblet of Fire, dude, like if you haven't seen it, go away. I'm going to spoil the very end. Like, Goblet of Fire, we get Robert Pattinson dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we meet Voldemort in his, like, cardinal shape for the first time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Goblet of Fire is badass. Let alone the dragon stuff, the stuff in the water. Like, Goblet of Fire is great. I actually had, and I think maybe my brother has it now, I had a Triwizard Cup for years. Like,
Oh,
a
that's
replica
awesome.
Triwizard Cup. So,
What
yeah,
you
but
say
yeah.
about meeting Voldemort in his cardinal form, like that scene with the wizard, like the first time that you're seeing like full force, like the power of the magic going on, like yeah, did they pull it out of their ass at that point? Probably, but it looks so freaking cool. The
Yeah.
souls that Voldemort took, Harry's parents showing up to help him, like
Well, and it sets
it,
the
it was
tone for the
awesome.
rest of the series. It's like, hey, it's no longer a happy-go-lucky, like, Happy Christmas, Harry, Happy Christmas, Ron. Like, it's not happy-go-lucky anymore. It's going to be a dark series going forward. Buckle up.
Even if they make Harry a prick in many points. My parents are dead. Yes, Harry, we know. My scar hurts. Yes, Harry, we're sure it does.
Yeah, if you like Harry Potter, you should watch Harold Trotter and the Flesh-Eating Slug Repellent
I've
on
never heard of
YouTube.
that.
The YouTube poop? You never watched the YouTube poop with us?
Oh, is that the one where it's Harry? You are a wizard.
Yeah. Hello,
I'm a what?
Hermione. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, okay. I didn't know it
Yes.
by title. Go
Yeah.
watch it, folks. It's good.
Harold Trotter and the Flesh-Eating Slug Repellent. So good.
You're gonna love putting that back on track picture up a lot, aren't you?
I only,
Uh,
in Kyle and I's episode, I think I only had to use it like once or twice. But it was a, yeah. We
I'm
had
pretty
literally
sure any
just left the
episode.
theater and recorded the episode like 10 minutes later. So,
I'm pretty sure any episode that I'm going to be on with you, we're going to be putting back on track a lot.
probably. And that's perfectly fine.
So, Griff is in jail, changes the newspaper, as we said. Old Biff is a witness. He was commenting that the chase was similar to what he experienced in 1955 after changing the timeline. And remembering a conversation with the elderly Biff speaking about Marty Sr. as the one who flushed his life down the toilet. Uh, this is whenever Marty is walking by and sees Gray's Sports Almanac,
Mm-hmm.
1950 to 2000. He finds it at an antique store and selling a bunch of memorabilia from the 20th century at that point. Did you happen to? I can't say I did because I wasn't looking for it when I watched this last night. Did you see anything that popped out to you that was interesting at the antique store?
I was so focused because I love, obviously I have my master's in sports management, huge sports guy. My whole life I have wanted the Gray Sports Almanac. Like, I think
Oh,
that
that'd
would
be
be so cool to have, like, obviously you guys can see my room for the first time. I want it in here somewhere. So I
uh-huh.
think that'd be awesome.
It's on Amazon right now. It's an exact replica for 14 bucks in paperback form of the Gray Sports Almanac.
Looks like
That's
that's
cool.
one. Well, if you need to get me a birthday present, let me know. Okay, so because I had a little time, I looked it up. So a couple other things in there. It's this says it's full of Easter eggs. It's from a Reddit thread. There's a VHH copy of Jaws. There's a JVC cam recorder. It's actually the one Marty used in the first film. And then when this came out, I believe Robert Zemeckis was also working on Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
No kidding.
Yeah, and there's a Who Framed Roger Rabbit doll in the antique store. So
That's cool.
yeah,
That might be another episode for the future. I adore
I've
Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
let's do it because I've never seen it.
You've never seen that.
No, yeah, let's
We'll
do it.
have, we'll have to watch that one together and run the podcast then. So, elderly Biff, name him what you will. He's old. He made that. Marty picks up the sports almanac at the antique store. and he sees the almanac as a way of, making a little money. Hey, Doc, we can go make some bets. And of course, Doc doesn't want to. He didn't create a time machine to for something as trivial as money.
Yeah. Well, before that too, the only like he notices the sports almanac, but what really makes him think of it is the Chicago Cubs. They're showing the video of the Chicago Cubs sweeping Miami in the World Series, which at the time this movie came out, the Chicago Cubs had not won the World Series since 1908. So it was 81 years later. Do you know when the Chicago Cubs finally broke their streak of not winning a World Series, Jordan?
Tell me, sports man.
2016.
Really?
They finally won the World Series in 2016. So, in this movie, they won it in 2015. So it was a little bit of a premonition, and I wish I had thought of it, because I would have put a big bet on the Cubs to win the World Series that year if I had just had Gray's Sports Almanac.
But the sports almanac's only from 1950 to 2000.
the newer one, damn it.
When Back to the Future 4 comes out and they have 2000 to 2050,
yeah, there we go. It'll be like Fall Out Boy's new version of We Didn't Start the Fire. It'll just be a whole new slew of things.
Doc scolds Marty about the almanac, etc., so he throws it in the trash. And this is when the Biff of 2015, old Biff, he overhears the conversation, takes the almanac out of the trash, and also remarks, crazy bastard built a time machine out of the DeLorean. Just as Doc and Marty are about to get Jennifer,
well, I was gonna question the writing, but I'm actually just gonna prove that it's correct, because what he says is a flying DeLorean. I haven't seen that since. So future Biff already has the memories of the Biff from back in the 80s, which that's really cool.
Oh, that's good continuity. That is very good continuity there.
I mean, if nothing else we've said about these movies, the writing is phenomenal.
Yes, it has its plot holes, but man, they tried their best to keep everything button tight.
And the plot holes are nothing major, really.
No. As long as you get from point A to point B, they did it in a very, very solid way. It doesn't leave you questioning.
I will be drawing a diagram from the film later on this dry erase board that Doc does. I'll show you how to get from point A to point 7. So
that's where you branch out. It's A.1, A.2.
Yeah.
So 2 police officers find that Jennifer's still knocked out, and they, it's the future. We have thumbprint scanners and stuff. They realize, oh, this must be 2015 Jennifer. They take her to her house, and so Doc and Marty have to follow her.
Because even though she's young, your thumbprints don't age, so they think that she's future Jennifer.
Okay, funny thing about that, I work construction. That is my job, my career, and I have a laptop that has a thumbprint scanner on it. Wouldn't you know it that when I got that laptop, signed my thumbprint in and everything, worked great. Take this 6 months later, I try and use that thumbprint scanner. Guess what? My thumbprint isn't recognized on that scanner anymore. Hands clean as can be. It's just,
You've worked it down. You don't have fingerprints anymore. You could probably commit crimes, man.
No. I have fingerprints. I do have fingerprints. But it's just a matter of, well, what if that happened to Jennifer? What if it was just like a spa day when she got her stuff done? And then, in the past Jennifer being scans like, oh, who is this lady? We have nothing in our database for her. How did she get away? And then FBI scene goes on.
Talking about fingerprints, so I took a criminal science class in college, and we did fingerprinting and stuff. And with fingerprint or fingertips, there's 3 different options you can have, ridges, whorls, and something else, points, I think they're called. And whorls, where it looks like a whirlpool, are the most rare, right? It's usually 1 in every 9 or 10 fingers has a whorl. I have 7 whorls.
You got me looking now.
We had a police officer come in and tell me that there is no way in hell I could ever commit a crime because they'll find me immediately. Because I have super rare fingerprints. So Which I asked him what would happen if I wore gloves, and I thought he wanted to slap me. So
Oh, that's awesome. Not sponsored by Yingling, but I found this at the grocery store yesterday at the time of this
there's a
recording.
glare on it.
Oh, see if I can get it. It is Bock beer. This is Yingling's version of a German Bock, Bock meaning goat, thus the
I
ram
love
on the
that.
front.
I love that ram. That's awesome.
It's a really cool design.
Yeah.
This is it might top regular Yingling for me. Problem is it's seasonal. I like
It's a spring
disclaimer.
beer.
I guess it would be. I believe it said February to May. So early spring beer, late winter, early spring.
Okay.
But I enjoy Yingling, all the beers that they put out. I really enjoy. Folks, if you have any chance to try a Hershey's Porter by Yingling, give it a go. If you like porters at all, it is a very good. It has the hints of Hershey's chocolate. It's a very good beer. Hashtag not sponsored.
Yet. Just
Hey
like
Yingling,
yeah.
Yingling, we're taking it.
Yingling and Zin, if you would like to
Jesus Christ.
hit up your boys, let us know.
Oh. Doc and Marty end up following Jennifer back to the house, which is the house of 2015 Marty.
In
Jennifer
the
gets
same
inside.
neighborhood, right? That he grew up in? Am I wrong in thinking it's Lyon Estates?
I didn't take notice, but let's just assume it is.
I think it
Because,
is.
it would fit with everything else going on. Who's to say that Marty didn't get the old house,
Right. But I don't know
I'll-
either because a little bit later, like the taxi driver tells Biff, like, "Hey, this is a really bad neighborhood." So, I don't know.
Well, Marty did also go downhill in this timeline, though, so
Right.
it's,
Right.
Jennifer gets in the house then. How'd that go? Oh, that's right. Doc feared that Jennifer would run into her future self, and then there were going to be two possibilities, which, by the way, this doesn't frickin' matter later, but either she's going to faint from shock or there's going to be a paradox that results in the upsetting of the time-space continuum and destroy the entire universe.
Yeah.
Maybe Biff was just too dumb to realize that it was actually old Biff, and then he had no effect on that later in the movie, but who's
Well,
to say?
Well, no, I mean, they blatantly tell you all that because, like, so, jumping forward a little bit, but we will come back. Marty goes in the future, or no, sorry, in the altered timeline of 1985. Marty
Yes.
goes and talks to Biff, and he wants to know where he got the sports almanac. And Biff tells him, "My relative gave it to me." An old guy came up to me and said he was my relative. And then when we go back to the 50s, that's what Biff says because old Biff is able to start the car. And that's a big thing with young
Yes.
Biff. He's like, "How do you start the car? I'm the only one that knows how to do that." And he goes, "Well, take it as I'm your relative." Like, so, yeah.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that. Yes.
That's why the paradox didn't happen. So,
Well, there's another loose end that they tied up there.
yeah. Yep.
That's good.
But yeah, so Jennifer's in the house, right?
Yes.
And
Jennifer's in the house. She gets scared, goes in a closet.
they don't have any door handles. She tries to leave and she can't leave. and then she hears talking upstairs, and then she goes in the closet, and their daughter comes down the steps because she thought she heard her mom's voice. Because apparently Jennifer hasn't aged because both the daughter and like Marty Jr. think it's actually just their mom. Like,
So, do you think it would have been cool if this played out? Do you think there's some nonsense that could go on? Maybe not so much by the looks, but like the voice. That you hear that sometimes guys go through like a second puberty as they get older. Their voice could either rise or sink more as a result. Do you think that could be a situation that could have been cool to play with where Marty, without the crow's feet and everything else at that point when he's older, they could have had something go on there where young Marty impersonates his dad and maybe young Jennifer could have impersonated her mom. Just shenanigans would have played out. Obviously we get what we get in the movie, but that could have been a neat thing that went on there.
sure,
Like, Dad,
yeah.
you're looking kind of young. Oh, I got some good sleep last night. That's all.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. I don't know. This movie in the '80s had to be so hard to make. Like, and I feel like that would have made it even harder. Just the amount of old person makeup. Like it looks like crap. I mean, people don't look that bad when they age 30 years, but it worked, right? It was
Yes.
basically theater makeup for looking old. Like it was like you're on a stage, people are far away. It's just that we were so close that it kind of looked bad. But yeah, I mean, you get the point. And they also had to make people look younger. Like Doc, we
Oh
forgot to bring
yeah.
it up in the beginning, but Doc Brown, right? Like when they first get back to the future, he's like, "Oh, Marty, I didn't want to just like disturb you," and starts like pulling off his face like Leatherface, like pulling off all the skin and shows him that he's de-aged by so many years.
Well, whenever Doc runs into Doc, even th- I know that they knew how to do it. They had people that were very good at those like split cuts of splicing film together and things like that.
But you can
That's
notice
something
it.
that Yeah, that's something
Yeah.
that's always intrigued me with movie magic is like you have the same actor doing the lines and but just having the shot be perfect like that. Like I get it. Hold the camera still, you do your shot over here, you do your shot over here. But even with CG, I'm thinking was it
Well, and you and I have only seen the remastered versions, right?
correct?
So they could have
Correct.
cleaned it up. Like, I would like to watch the VHS copy of this and see what it looks like. Like, see
I
how good it looks or how good it doesn't look or whatever.
I was thinking, is it Endgame where they all go back in time?
Yeah, when they go back to put the Infinity Stones back, yeah.
Yes, so like Chris Evans runs into Chris Evans. I get that we're at a point where movie magic works like that, but there's a point there where they're face to face, like in a shot, and it's like, it's Chris Evans, but like that they're moving and
Well,
it's
in the
just
movie
seamless.
we just reviewed last week and put out, The Monkey, like, um, Theo plays both Hal and Bill, like the twins as they're adults. Yeah, that stuff happens all the time. And coming out this month, Robert De Niro has a movie called Alto Nights where he plays two different mob bosses that constantly have conversations. Like we see this all the time. Mickey 17. Robert Pattinson plays multiple Mickeys that are interacting all the time, and it's I don't want to talk much about Mickey 17. I talked a little about it earlier, but what I do want to say, Robert Pattinson is here. Last year, Timothy Chalamet in Dune 2 showed us that he is the future of acting. Robert Pattinson is right there with him. This was his absolute masterpiece. Vanilla Bear on the Forest Film Club talks about that, and it's very true. This is his absolute masterpiece. So,
That's really good to hear because
yeah.
I do enjoy some movies that Robert Pattinson's in.
He's a
It's
great
nice that
actor, dude.
it's nice that he's escaped the Edward from Twilight thing. Like,
Yeah.
there's gonna be people that always see him as that, but
Yeah.
hearing that he's making I want to call it a comeback of, his acting
Yeah,
career in
he's
this
just
sense.
finally getting opportunity. Him and Kristen Stewart both have both.
Yes,
The only
yes.
the only person that hasn't broken out of Twilight is Taylor Lautner. Like Taylor
I,
Lautner is still stuck back then, but Taylor Lautner had a career as a kid. Like he was Shark Boy and
yes.
Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Um, but Taylor Lautner is embracing it, and there's actually an Amazon show coming out where he's a werewolf hunter in the Twilight universe, I believe. So like he's like,
Oh,
you know what?
oh,
If you can't escape them, join them. So, but yeah,
good
both
for him.
like Robert Pattinson, dude. I mean, The Devil All the Time is an incredible film on Netflix. Water for Elephants is a really good movie.
I did see that.
Yeah, The Batman, and Robert Pattinson has a bunch of movies coming out this year, man.
How was he in the Batman? That is a movie that
He,
I knew came out, but I didn't see it.
we're going to review The Batman, you and I. Absolutely
Wonderful.
going to review it. I love that movie. I saw it 4 times in theaters.
Awesome.
So yeah, he was very good. He knew how to play a socially awkward reject. So he's very different from Keaton and
Uh,
Christian Bale.
I wanted to say
Very
Christopher Nolan, and I'm like, no, that's the
yeah,
guy who made it.
yeah. Keaton and Christian Bale. Ben Affleck doesn't count. There's no There's no Batfleck. I'm sorry. It
That's
doesn't exist.
that's what happens when DC's directly behind the helm. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
Well,
Because
James Gunn. Or not James Gunn. No, James Gunn's great. Zack Snyder. When Zack Snyder is behind the
yeah,
helm, you just want to stay away.
I was gonna say James Gunn made a very good Suicide Squad
Yeah,
movie.
dude, I'm very excited for this new Superman. Like, because
hmm
James Gunn is entirely in charge of it. Let's get back on track. I don't remember where we were. Oh, we were in the future house. Yeah.
Like you said, her kids thought they heard their mom and ended up not. Later, Jennifer moves up to the bathroom where she sees that her family is far from what she was expecting it to be at that point. This is where Marty of 2015, he is a miserable office worker who he was forced basically to give up his guitar playing and his dreams of being a musician. When he was goaded into a street race, crashed his car into a Rolls Royce, which permanently injured his arm. Do you think Rolls Royce got a chunk of change or gave a chunk of change for being noted in that?
I doubt it.
This is when we see a video telephone call occur. Wow, the future's nuts. As we
Yeah.
are in the program Discord right now having a video telephone call.
Yeah, but
Anyhow,
it's not, telegrammed into a TV though, like it wasn't this. Like it was very Spaceballs. Like
yes, yes.
when Pizza the Hut calls them, that's what I picture with this. Needles is Pizza the Hut for Back to the Future too.
That's good. Yeah. Needles, as you said, was Marty's colleague. He asked him if he wanted to get into a profitable, but it was an illegal scheme that involves Marty's Costco credit card. Marty originally refuses because it would endanger his job, but then Needles calls him a chicken.
This I need to say this. This part bothers me. And not the chicken part. What bothers me is this is another one of those instances that something's presented to us in the second film of a trilogy that we're supposed to know what it is. They present Needles like we met him in the first film. And the only real issue I have with it isn't the fact that he exists, it's that Jennifer's in the closet and she goes, Needles? Like, why is Needles calling? Like, I'm supposed to know who the fuck Needles is. I don't know who you are. Like, I have no idea who this guy is.
Do you do you think he might have just it could be a one-off, but do you think he was like a character in Marty's original band?
I don't know. So I Googled it and he does not appear at all in Back to the Future 1.
Wow, okay. Okay.
It's only 2 and I believe 3. But yeah, he's not a character in the first film.
Well, let's look into him just a touch more here since we brought up Needles. Apparently in 1984, Marty met Jennifer at Hill Valley's 7-Eleven and interrupted them whenever, or Needles interrupted them whenever he was going to ask him on a date,
Yeah, I think
etc.
that's in the third film, I believe.
Yeah, there really isn't much of anything. That was
No, and that's
oh, Needles was in 1985. Needles was indirectly responsible for ruining Marty's life by manipulating him into racing their trucks. Marty ended up crashing into a Rolls Royce. Uh, the
but
driver pressed charges. Yeah,
young
young
Jennifer wouldn't have known who that was. Like unless they were in high school together or whatever, but yeah, I think that was them trying to make up for it. Like, oh, we want to introduce this character and we're going to act like everyone knows who they are, but I don't know, that bothered me. I like continuation in films, and I like to understand who my characters are because character development is huge. And Needles was just another person to call him chicken.
They shoved him in there just to keep the plot moving. They used the chicken MacGuffin
But
to
they could have used anybody. Use Match, use 3D, use somebody I've already met. Like why do we need to do it with a brand new character?
well, at that point though, I agree with you. Why not use somebody that we knew that was established? Because Match 3D and stuff, that would have been George McFly's age.
Sure.
Well, no, that even that being said though, why not use them? And they turned their lives around to a point where they got an office job, this nonsense
Yeah.
went on, and they were impressionable on Marty's, they pushed him into doing the truck race and everything else, et cetera, et cetera. And that could have made sense. Anyhow, Marty's called chicken and he's angered. He goes along with it. And then his Japanese boss at Costco, uh,
You're
he,
fired.
yes, he was listening in on it. appears on the video screen and then fires Marty by sending it. He says it on the screen, but then he sends a fax that says you're
not just
fired.
one fax. This
He
house,
sent it to the whole house.
despite this house being in 2015, apparently Robert Zemeckis thought the most updated thing we would get in terms of communication are fax machines, and there's one in every room in the house. And then my lovely, lovely Lorraine comes in with the fax. Marty, what does this mean?
Yeah, one of the faxes is taken from Jennifer. Then you said about his mom. Yeah, there's a fax machine in the bathroom, which I mean, sure, why not?
Yeah, gotta get it. You gotta get it, man.
Yeah. Well, maybe this wasn't far from Blade Runner. The corporations, they take over the household. You have to do business every stinking day. Anyhow, Doc finds Jennifer, tries to sneak her out of the house. Jennifer, unfortunately, runs into her future self at the front door. And they both, oh my God, from young Jennifer. I'm old. I'm young from old Jennifer.
Yeah, and then option one of the two options that could happen happens, and she faints.
Thankfully, it was that and not the universe just being destroyed like Doc was assuming.
Yeah, but then
Two extremes here, Doc.
They get her back to the time machine and go back to the past, right? And this is a plot hole that they didn't fix, and I'm kind of glad they didn't because it's really funny to me because they take her to what they think is her home and put her on the bench, right? And then Marty goes to his old home, and it's not his home. Like, he didn't live there anymore. So they just left an unconscious girl outside some random person's house and just left her there.
That's a good point.
Like, don't you think, like, if situation happened like that with Meg, you'd go back and make sure, hey, is this actually Meg's house? Like, why are we just leaving your girlfriend on a bench unconscious outside a house with bars on the windows? What are we doing?
Hey, it's not a good neighborhood anymore, so yeah, that's something they should have thought about.
Yeah, but no, that cracks me up. And then then we go to Biff's Pleasure Palace. And we talked about that a little bit, so skip ahead some, and Marty gets knocked out by Biff's cronies, and we have a callback to the first film where Marty's asleep thinking he's dreaming. His mom is in the room with the lights down, and then, the lights come up, and she's old, and she has pulled a Jan Levinson Gould with a giant boob job.
Yeah, there's no way to put it. That's exactly what happened.
Yep.
Because Biff wanted them.
Yep. Yep. Who's gonna pay for all your cosmetic surgery? You're the one that wanted these, Biff.
Yep. That is correct. I do have to make note about Mr. Strickland, since we jumped ahead.
Oh my God, I forgot about Strickland, dude. Strickland armed to the teeth.
Yep. He's brandishing a shotgun. He's wearing a bulletproof vest. He doesn't recognize Marty, but he thinks he's the guy that's been stealing the newspaper off of his porch.
Yeah.
And this is where Marty learns that Hill Valley High School was burned down by vandals, criminals, whatever, about 6 years ago. Strickland gives Marty like 5 seconds to get off his porch before he, gets ready to shoot Marty in the crotch of all things. And then this is when there's a group of teenagers that drive by and start shooting Strickland's house with SMGs of some sort. And then, all the potted plants get shot up as Marty and Strickland take cover. And then Strickland pops up with his shotgun and just yells out, "Eat lead, slackers!" It's a good line. And then Marty runs off for his life. This is where you discover how bad the neighborhood's gotten at this point then. It's because the timeline's been changed. Biff's Pleasure Palace has become a thing then, and, things like that.
So
Marty...
This part does remind me of something I forgot to talk about earlier. So I heard in a couple videos I was watching that initially this movie was going to be much darker than the first one. They were going to kind of go with the Empire Strikes Back method of, doing some dark things. And, two of the scenes that were cut out were pertaining to the school. They were actually going to have Marty go and see it completely destroyed and like just sitting there like a ruin. And also when old Biff is like, after he returns with the DeLorean, and is sitting behind the car, he actually dies and fades into nothing. And
I did. Yes, yes.
And the theory with that was that Lorraine was so miserable that at some point she just killed Biff. that was the original theory they were gonna go with.
I would have. Well, you need Biff, but I would have liked that as a twist.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so like you were saying, we get to the Pleasure Palace.
Yep, we're at the Pleasure Palace. You said a moment ago that Biff's cronies knock out Marty, etc. Marty wakes up and he hears his mother's voice. She's telling him to relax. He's been asleep for like 2 hours. Thought it was a nightmare. Says he's safe and sound on the 27th floor and turns on the lights.
Floor.
Marty's shocked that she has some big honkabadonkas and she's now an alcoholic and she's smoking. It's just everything that he didn't see in his mom at that, besides her being a drunk in the first movie. Well, still, regardless, it shocks Marty.
It's just, it's everything that he knew she was, like, exponentially worse.
Yes. And I do have to make note of a great line that she wonders what's wrong with Marty as he's staring at her chest, and he just says, "You're so big."
We were all thinking it, Marty. We were all thinking
it. Just then, a man calls out Lorraine's name, and then she realizes it's Marty's father, and Marty says, "My father?" Biff bursts in. Because Marty didn't recognize the voice. That's got to be what it was.
Yeah.
He busts in, sees Marty, and wants to know why he's not in Switzerland. So that's telling you in this reality, he got sent overseas as a... You know what? Say you will about this, Biff. He sent Marty to Switzerland to be an exchange student. I mean...
Well, he's also spending all the money on the kids. Like, he's very evident in saying stuff like that. Like, he's paying all of the girls' credit cards. I forget what he's doing for the brother, but another dark part of this movie they were going to do is they were going to actually show the brother and have him be this just raging alcoholic that's like homeless and all this stuff. They were going to show him, but then they cut it out of the movie.
Well, back to a phrase that you want to bring back. Biff sneers at Lorraine that Marty is a butthead just like his dad.
Yeah. But the use of butthead in this movie was very good again. Very good. Especially when the Biffs have a butthead off. Don't call me butthead. Like...
Which it'll come up. Well, I'll save that. I'll save it when it comes up. Yeah. Lorraine defends George after he says that, and he tells Biff he's not even half the man that George was. Biff retaliates, pushes her to the floor. Marty rushes him, but sure stuff. There's Biff's gang, who are now bodyguards of all things. So, I mean, Biff taking care of the boys.
One of which is dressed like Elvis, I believe.
Yeah. They grab Marty. Biff punches Marty in the stomach, and Lorraine snaps at him. Biff asks her as she starts to leave, who's going to pay for the clothes, the jewelry, the liquor, the cosmetic surgery? That's where, like you said, Lorraine argues back. He's the one that you're the one that wanted these things. Then Biff ends up blackmailing her, basically saying he's not threatening to cut only Lorraine off, but, cancel Marty's sister, Linda, cancel the credit card. It was parole. It was Dave's parole.
Okay, I thought it was parole, yeah.
Yep.
You're all going to go to jail like you jailbird Joey.
Yep. Yep, that is the line.
Yeah.
Biff leaves, warning that Marty will get lost for an hour once Biff is gone. Lorraine tells Marty that Biff was right, she was wrong, pours herself a drink. Marty's shocked, wondering how, she could leave George for Biff. Lorraine was confused by that and says, "Oh, Biff must have hit you too hard this time."
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, they must have hit you in the head way too hard this time," which, in my opinion, that's a callback to Samuel Baines with, honey, I hit another kid with my car. Like,
Oh, that's a good point. I like that. I like that.
yeah, this is not the first time this has happened.
If it's not the McFlys get knocked out really a lot.
Yep.
Just, it runs in the family, I guess.
You know what? I might take it back. Maybe I do like this movie better than the first one because there's no fricking peeping Tom George McFly.
So, speaking of George McFly for the segue,
Let's go. Let's
Lor-
go.
Lorraine tells Marty, your dad's been dead for 12 years and he's buried in
Well,
Oak Park Cemetery.
so it's more beautifully done than that, though, because Marty's like, Mom, answer me one question. Where is my dad? And she's like, oh, honey, he's in the same place he's been for 12 years. And then she tells him the cemetery. And I remembered it because it's an iconic moment in my life that George McFly was dead. But when it happened, I was cheering. I scared my dog. I was like, let's go! Let's go!
As you sat there with your dog watching Back to the Future.
Yes, yes. Let's go! At 10 a.m. on a Saturday. My Saturday morning cartoon is seeing the gravestone of George David McFly.
This was a Mandela effect for me because for some reason I thought she said that and it just cuts like instantaneous, like no Marty shocked or anything, just like it cuts right to the tombstone.
No,
Just as the
yeah,
scene transition.
because you have to follow Marty through the graveyard. Like
Yeah.
Marty's running through the graveyard to find it. Yeah, this is so. I'm probably going out on a limb here, but I'm gonna do that anyhow because it's my show. I can do whatever I want. I think them killing George McFly is kind of like what Trey Parker and Matt Stone did with Chef when Chef left the show.
Oh,
And
I like
when
that comparison.
and the show, if you don't know what it is, it's South Park, right? So, Crispin Glover wanted to get out of the Back to the Future because of disagreements. Chef wanted to leave the South Park because they made fun of Scientologists. Which, conspiracy theory here, something came out in recent history that the letter saying that Chef wanted to leave South Park was sent after he had a stroke, I believe, and so was unable to care for himself. And the Church of Scientology, was his oh my god, what is the word called? Power of attorney. So they think that the church actually sent that letter to Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and it wasn't the actor. So it wasn't because this whole time, like, the Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and honestly myself, was like, you're kind of a bitch, dude, for wanting to get out of this show, because they make fun of literally everything. They make fun of every religion, every belief. They make fun of being atheist. Like, they make fun of all of it. And then they make fun of Scientology and you have to leave. But yeah, The Sun came out recently. I think it was recently. I recently heard about it and said that was sent after he had his stroke. So they think the Church of Scientology is actually the ones that did that and not him. But if you guys don't know what happens, they make Chef out to be a pedophile and have him ripped to death by wolves. Like, they just murdered this man because his character wanted out of his actor wanted out of the show.
Yeah, and it was just like, well, he could still be okay, and then he just like bursts into flames or something like that after getting his face ripped off. But it might have been wolves. I was thinking lions for some reason, but one or the other. He just gets mauled by this pack of animals.
I don't remember. I thought it was out in the forest, but it could have been out in the safari. I don't know. But yeah, yeah, Chef just gets annihilated.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, Marty sees his dad's tombstone. It shows that he died March 15th, 1973. Doc comes out of the shadows then because Doc knew Marty would find out that his dad died somehow. But how did Doc know at this point?
What?
Like, what kind of research was Doc doing at this point that he knew that, like, everything was screwed up? He dropped Marty off where he did, and he dropped Jennifer off where he did. How did Doc know? Or did he just do the research right away because he was driving in time? He's like, oh shit, Biff's Pleasure Palace wasn't there before.
Probably, and honestly, newspapers. Like Doc
Doc
see,
loves his
yeah,
newspapers.
Doc loves his newspapers. Yeah, but that's a cool that's a very serious moment in an otherwise
Oh
unserious
yeah.
film because Doc just comes up and he's like, "It's true, Marty."
It's true, Marty. Your dad's dead.
Yeah, I've been trying to. When I found out your father died, I figured you would come here.
So I'll let you take the reins here.
Let's
How
go.
did George die?
Oh, how did George die? I don't actually know. Well, I mean, they admitted a little later that Biff murdered him, but
He was shot dead in an alley.
yeah.
But also coming up, why don't we get that drawing going? Because this is coming up to the point where
Oh,
Doc
I'm
Brown
ready.
is explaining the timeline. Let's hit
I'm
it.
ready. All right. So Marty asks Doc what's happening, and Doc is like, "Well, something happened in the timeline, so we're gonna show you." So, Marty, at a certain point, you have the timeline. You have the past, now, and the future. At some point in the past, Marty, we broke off, and we have 1985 alternate. So Biff from the future went to the past at some point and gave the almanac to young Biff. So we have to go back here. We can't go to the future, Marty, or it's the future of right now. So we need to go back to the past.
Folks, I do recommend checking out the YouTube video of this more so than the Spotify, as Alex has drawn a lovely diagram on his whiteboard
Yeah, there you
showing Doc
Yeah.
Brown's drawing. And if you don't know what it is, just look at the movie. I'd say it's spot on.
It's probably pretty close, actually.
Oh, Doc does that, etc., etc. He shows another MacGuffin, a silver colored bag. The sports almanac came in, along with the receipt and old Biff's fist-shaped cane that he found in the DeLorean. That shows everything that old Biff stole the time machine, gave the book to himself sometime in the
I was
past,
gonna say,
and changed.
did we say that happened? I feel like we glossed over that. Like when they're in the future, old Biff steals the DeLorean and goes back.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we just
You
forgot to
are.
say it. So
Yep.
yeah, when they're in the future, I forget why Marty gets out of the DeLorean because Doc tells Marty to stay in the DeLorean while he goes to get Jennifer, and then Biff is there, old Biff is there, and then Marty gets out. Biff steals the DeLorean, goes back to the past, and then comes back before they ever even notice.
We're jumping back to, we find out that Biff, stole the DeLorean, stuff like that at some point. He shows Marty a newspaper. It's a headline about Biff's first successful battle on a horse racetrack in 1958. Marty uses a magnifying glass. That was a key point there because he could see that the almanac's in Biff's pocket. And Doc's like, you see how time travel can be misused, Marty? No, Doc, because I just wanted to make a little extra money. I wasn't going to be a millionaire.
The son of a bitch stole my idea.
Yeah, like I get you're all high and mighty here, Doc, but come on, you could have had some really cool research going on at this
Doc
point if you
also
would have.
did the same thing. This
Yeah,
whole thing is Doc's fault.
yeah. Doc didn't destroy the universe by changing fate by him not dying. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine the welts he had in his chest after taking all that AK ammo to the freaking bulletproof vest. If the bullets didn't kill him, the cracked ribs might have. That
Oh,
would have been a
that's
crazy plot change.
that's another correction we should have from the first episode. They are Libyan terrorists, not
What did I say?
Liberian.
Oh, shit.
Liberian. I was like, I've never heard of Liberia, but all right.
Oh, that's just me being port reading. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, they are Libyan terrorists in the
Libyan.
Volkswagen. I actually want to talk about something that, you and I had brought up in the first episode, and it's like Robert Zemeckis knew people were going to say stuff like that, so he fixed it in the second movie. Because we talked about the quarter, like using a spare change in your pocket, like a quarter that's from the future. And Doc actually has an entire case of money set for each time frame he could go to.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So that eliminates our entire idea that we were talking about.
Well, I wouldn't say it eliminates it. Doc was just planning to not screw up the space-time continuum.
Sure, Marty could have still screwed it up. That's fair. Our
Yes.
our our
Yeah.
idea for an alternate universe still exists.
Doc declares it can correct the timeline by traveling back to the past, which, as you said, they're gonna do, which means they must determine the precise date and location where old Biff gave his younger self the almanac. And Marty, I'll go ask Biff myself. And we go back to Biff's Pleasure Palace. I hate and love that name at the same time.
Dude, we talked about Minecraft a little earlier. I used to call my place Benner's Pleasure Palace because of this movie. Like I used to put little signs out of my house in Minecraft.
This is where, as you looked up there, this is where, as we know now, Biff's watching Fistful of Dollars on TV.
Bulletproof vest.
Yep. Yep. Anyhow, Marty comes in, turns TV off with the remote, and throws it in the tub, and he confronts Biff about the almanac. And then, Biff gets real serious, tells the women party's over.
Which is
Get outta
funny
here.
because like Marty comes in and he goes, "Party's over," and Biff's like, "Who do you think you are?" And then he goes, "Gray's Sports Almanac," and Biff's like, "You heard the man. Party's over." Like, it's like, oh no, someone caught on.
He asks Marty what else he knows about, the almanac, and this is where Biff takes Marty into his private office, which, man, this building's just set up very conveniently for movies. Because it's like right next door to the jacuzzi. Biff's Pleasure Palace, he doesn't mix business and pleasure. I mean,
No, he does. Just separates them by one door.
this 2-inch drywall is going to separate. Biff opens up a safe, which is behind an oil painting of himself. And it's got 3 combo locks on it, which is awesome. So he tells Marty, he says something along the lines, I believe it was November 12th, 1955. He crashed a car drag racing. He's bullshitting him because in reality he hit the manure truck. And Biff continues saying that this crazy old guy with a cane, he was my distant relative, and he turned up, gave me the almanac, asked him how I would like to be, rich. He admits he didn't see the resemblance. He looks exactly like Biff. Same actor, I get it, but I didn't see the resemblance. Dude, it's you in old makeup. Just going on about Biff being, Biff. Old man said he was going to be rich. Biff said, what's the catch? He said, no catch, just keep it secret. And afterwards, the old man disappeared and Biff never saw him again. Marty then takes one of the matchbooks from an ashtray. Biff remembered something else. Old Biff warned him someday a crazy wild-eyed scientist or a kid would show up. If that ever happens, without finishing the sentence there, Biff pulls out a revolver. And he says, I didn't think the person would be you. He gets ready to shoot Marty, and Marty throws an ashtray at Biff.
He could have killed him, dude. It sticks in his chair. Like, I thought it was just going to clang off. No, it's stuck. I thought he was going to kill him.
It's a wild ashtray.
Yeah.
And then Marty runs upstairs. Biff, he starts shooting at him, and then here come the goons. Skinhead match in 3D. They see Marty go downstairs, but he jumps onto another flight of stairs, and he goes back up as they go down. Biff catches up to Marty and sees the door of the roof swinging, and he corners him on the roof. Tells Marty to jump, saying suicide would be nice and neat. Marty then questions what had happened if he didn't. Biff responds by pulling the gun out and saying it'll be lead poisoning. So either way, he's going to be dead. So Marty warns Biff that the police will match a bullet to the gun. Biff reveals he owns the police. They didn't match the bullet that killed George McFly. So Marty gets mad at this, at finding out that Biff killed his dad, but he jumps over the ledge, and Biff can't believe it, and he calls Marty an idiot and looks over, and Marty rises up on the hood of the DeLorean. And then the suicide door going, I guess it'd be a wing door. Suicide doors is, it flips back, not up.
Right.
Anyhow, it flies open, knocks Biff in the jaw, knocked him out, and then, Doc and Marty fly away, setting the time machine for November 12th, 1955. So then we go back to 1955. So Marty follows Biff to a mechanic shop. It's Terry, the mechanic, who repaired Biff's car, dropped it off at his tow truck.
And then
Biff argues
we see
with Terry about the repairs.
we see the love of my life, Lorraine. She has her dress and she's ready to roll, and Biff gets freaking rapey again.
I'm going with Calvin Klein.
Well, but before that, he's like, "Oh, nice dress. I bet you look better with nothing," and starts to pull her dress up. Biff, I'm gonna reach through the TV and punch you. Get your hands off my girl, man. Get your damn hands off of her.
Oh, somebody has a soft spot for George McFly when it has to do with Lorraine.
No, I just would be George in that situation. I'm jealous of George, man. Why do you think I hate him so much? I'm jealous of George. Come on.
This is where you see old Biff in Biff's car then. And, Biff's like, "Hey, get the hell out of my car, old man." And old Biff starts the car, and, that's like you said there a little bit ago. Biff says to old Biff, "How did you know to start the car? I'm the only one that knows how to do that. I'm a relative." Old Biff's, he's driving like an asshole back to the house, and they park in the garage, and Biff demands to know how old Biff knows where he lives. And gives him the
funny
almanac.
that he just keeps hitting stuff. I feel like
Yes.
I feel like they're doing a commentary on old people driving.
This is when he gives him the almanac, and then Biff throws it back and tells old Biff to make a tree and get out of here. And old Biff says, "It's leaf, you idiot. It's leaf."
You sound dumb when you say it wrong. All right, I'm sorry.
Old Biff realizes how wrong he was at that point. He's like, "Oh shit, I thought it was the other way around."
Make a tree and get out of here. It's leaf.
Biff needs proof that the almanac's real. Old Biff turns the radio onto a football game, tells him, "Oh, UCLA's gonna win 1917.
Yeah, he's like, I bet you $1,000,000 UCLA wins 1917. Didn't you just hear what they said? The game's over. It's 17-16. Oh, the kick is up. And it's good. And UCLA wins 19-17. I'll take a look into that." And he takes the almanac.
Biff throws it in the back of the car, then on the back seat, and old Biff grabs it before Marty can. He says, "Don't leave this thing lying around." Get a safe.
That's a great. Well, it's so funny because he goes, "Don't leave it laying around. Don't you have a safe?" "No, you don't have a safe. Get a safe."
Yes. It's so good. Get a safe.
Well, and it's funny too because this is the first instance we get where the almanac is left sitting and it's so close to Marty, and before he can get it, somebody grabs it, because this happens a couple different times.
This is when we find out old Biff warned Biff about Doc and Marty. Marty gets out of the car, tries to follow him. The garage door is locked with a padlock. Biff comes back to the garage while having to deal with his grandmother yelling at him, so that Biff can go to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Biff hears some sports results and is amazed that they match the almanac. And Doc's coming by on a bicycle just as they leave.
Well, and
See in the garage.
At this point, Marty's in the back seat, I believe, too.
Yeah, he was locked in there. He couldn't get out.
And that's we didn't talk about it, but it's probably the funniest part of the movie to me, that when Biff is getting his car back, right, when Marty first comes back to the past, and Marty's laying in the back seat with a blanket over him, and Biff throws 4 cans of oil right into his nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're at the dance. Marty's still trying to get the almanac from Biff. He follows Mr. Strickland, who took it.
They showed us a shot for shot of the first
movie. Oh, yeah. Oh, they were absolutely... I don't know if it'd be... They had green screens, but I don't know if it was a sense of, let's redo this, or let's just have Michael J. Fox.
Crispin Glover is actually there, so it was certainly green screen. Because they're actually showing George. Yeah.
That's a good point, yep. And this is where he wanted to sue.
Well, no, I don't think, actually, because I don't believe he'd have much of a case for them using old footage. He would have a case for when they had somebody wearing his, mold at the beginning of the movie using his likeness. That's what he could sue for.
So what I heard, actually, it was because they used his footage, because he signed on for Back to the Future 1. He didn't sign on for the second movie. And as a result, they're using footage from the first movie and the second movie, going down the rabbit hole there. I believe that's what he ended up trying to have grounds to sue on.
Maybe. I just don't think that's that he's gonna get anything from that. You know what I mean? Like,
It-
because
yeah.
Warner Brothers owns it. Like, just because you're not acting in it, we're just using your footage. Like, I don't know. Who knows?
It's hard
I mean,
to say
they
back in
settled-
that time, you know?
Well, and they settled outside of court, so we'll never know
Yep.
what was actually right and what wasn't.
So fuck George McFly is what I'm hearing you say.
Hate him. Heard it here. Heard it here. First, second, third, and fourth, folks. Hate George McFly. George McFly sucks.
George knocks out Biff, speaking of the man, the myth, the legend. And Marty snags the almanac, and then this is when he runs into Biff's cronies, who mistake him for, Calvin Klein.
So if the plan fails, does that mean that there's now a third Marty McFly if they tried to redo the plan? And it just keeps on building.
What? What do you mean?
You know what I mean? So there's that Marty from whenever all the stuff getting his dad and mom together succeeded. We have this Marty now. If this plan would have failed, would these attempts have still have gone on? Like, say Marty was taken by Biff's cronies, and then like Marty McFly 3 comes back then, and he grabs the almanac from Marty whenever Biff's cronies grab.
Dude, it would have. What I wanted the first time I saw this is I wanted them to throw him in the trunk, and he looks over and it's also him. Like they're both
that
stuck
would have
in the
been
trunk
awesome.
together.
Yup.
Yeah. And then, because then I want a third Marty McFly, and I want the Spider-Man meme.
And then they all pass out, or the universe explodes.
Yep, and that's the end. Thanks for coming, folks.
Yep. He drops sandbags on them. They get knocked out, and then there's another confrontation with Biff where he calls Marty chicken. Marty gets knocked down when he's hit by a door as his earlier self leaves to meet with Doc at the clock tower. Biff gets the almanac back, and Biff gets a nosebleed from Marty punching him. As he drives off in his car, Doc and Marty follow him in a DeLorean, hanging on from the side. Marty had the hoverboard because, let's take that back to the past, future, whatever.
Yeah, dude. Wouldn't you? I would take that.
Yeah. This is a very cool scene though, where Marty is just hoverboarding behind Biff, and Biff's looking back in his rearview mirror. He's like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Marty just grabs the almanac as Biff can't stop him, and he goes crashing into a manure truck again. And then the rainstorm from the end of the first film begins as Marty burns the almanac, fixing the future. So, mission successful. Doc and Marty get ready to go back to the future. However, before Doc can land, the car is suddenly struck by lightning, and it seems like it explodes. Marty thinks that Doc's dead while he's trapped in 1955. However, the car pulls up, and a Western Union delivery man gives a letter to Marty. The man explains the letter was given to Western Union 70 years earlier, with the explicit instruction to deliver it to someone of Marty's name and description at this exact location, minute, and date. Marty opens it up, finds out that Doc is alive and well. The lightning strike sent him back to 1885. There's your foreshadowing, folks. And Marty rushes off to find 1955 Doc, who has just succeeded in sending the other Marty back to 1985.
I
Marty.
love this part. I feel like of the if you're looking at the trilogy and you think of an iconic moment, it's right here. Like the flames are in the in the road, Doc's standing there celebrating, and then we see Marty's running down there real quick, and he's like, Doc, and Doc's like, no, it can't be. I just sent you back to the future. I know, Doc, but now I'm back from the future. Great Scott!
Oh, and then Marty tries to wake Doc
Yeah,
up
because Doc faints. Yeah.
Yep. And then the screen fades, and we're ready for Back to the Future 3, folks.
And so in the version I watched, there's a thing that comes up that says "to be concluded," and then they show a trailer for the third one, which I believe they did that in the actual theater, but you can't quote me on it. I don't know, but it would make sense because the second and third ones were coming out, like being filmed at the same time, like you said. It would make sense that they showed that.
That would get a lot of people excited. But with all that being said, Back to the Future 2, not the strongest of the trilogy, but it holds a very soft spot in my heart because it plays with the idea of jumping back and forth. We're going to reuse some footage here and there. But it gives Marty like a little bit more of a serious character in a sense.
because it's like, oh, I made a mistake. I gotta remedy the mistake. Oh my God, my dad's dead. Now I have to remedy that. And we're going back to the past again because I gotta get that almanac that I screwed up. So this entire movie is Marty's fault, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think it's Doc's fault. It's Doc's
Yeah.
fault, and Marty's trying to patch it up.
It is Doc's fault. If he would have let Marty just become a millionaire in the future, it would have been fine.
Well, and if he just didn't come back for him, like, just let it play out, Doc. You know, we already.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, though, do you wonder if that newspaper where Doc's in an asylum, do you think that happened before or after all this went down?
Well,
Like with
so
Biff's
we
timeline and
see it after, like, because that was my question too. But we do see it after all of that, because then it changes from Doc committed to Doc commended. He's getting an award.
that's
So
that's
yeah.
true.
Yeah, but no, I mean that's kind of where my head canon is at, is that something happened to Doc because of what happened to Marty Jr., and that's how he had to fix it. But I don't know, dude, because like in real life 2015, Christopher Lloyd's old as crap. So you would think like Doc Brown is also old as crap, which another correction from the first episode. At one point I accidentally called him Doc Holliday. It's because we kept talking about Tombstone. It's Doc
I
Brown.
wasn't gonna.
know,
I
it's Doc
remember it.
Brown.
I wasn't gonna call you out, but I was like, that's
No,
just
do that.
people.
Do
People
that.
know.
Don't be so judicious. If I say something wrong, tell me I said something wrong.
So
That's
watching it, you know, at this point, 2 hours ago or so. What did you think of Back to the Future 2 as a whole compared to the first one?
Well,
You know.
so I don't think it's fair to compare it to the first movie. I really don't. You know, we talk a lot, like I talked to Chocolate Bear on the Forest Film Club about how a lot of times in a trilogy, the second movie is by far better than the first. You think Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. You think Empire Strikes Back. You know, you think Dune Part 2. In terms of trilogies, a lot of times the first sequel is better. Probably even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Secret of the Ooze. I'd say that might be better than the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Back to the Future
Austin
2.
Powers.
Yeah,
That's one that sticks out to me. I
yeah,
mean,
all of the
International
Austin
Man of
Powers are
Mystery,
good.
you know,
Yeah.
Spy
Who
Me.
Shagged Me. Yeah, in terms of names, it's got the best name.
Yeah.
Shrek 2 might be better
Yes.
than Shrek 1.
Oh my God. Yes.
Toy Story 2.
Toy Story 2.
Yeah, but that's not a trilogy anymore. But Shrek's not either, actually. But either way, Back to the Future 2 is not better than the first one. I would argue it might be more fun, though.
Yes, I absolutely agree with the fun.
Yeah, the hoverboard, all of the, you know, this one had to be hard to write because we're in 3 separate time periods in this. We're in the future, we're in the current, we're in the past, and all these things have to link up because if they don't, you know, people are going to bring it up. Because it's been scrutinized now for going on 30 years. You know, we're coming up on the 30th year anniversary of this. Or no, 40th. We're coming up on the 40th year anniversary of this movie. So yeah, no, I thought it was great. I love the fact that I didn't notice all of the... and I think it's just because I watched it so long ago. I actually believe October 21st, 2015, I think is the only time I've ever seen Back to the Future 2.
Okay.
So, yeah, having seen it then and now, like, I didn't realize how many, you know, Easter eggs there were for the third movie. But I'm very, very, very excited to review the third movie.
Good. I'm excited as well. I'm excited for all the upcoming movies that you and I are going to be rewatching, watching fresh, whatever, doing some reviews here on.
Yeah.
And but yeah,
I'll,
Back to the Future series is it's meant for like my taste in sci-fi anymore. It's grounded with that disbelief in reality, and
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. We'll do our final thoughts on Back to the Future, and then I do want to go. I actually, for anyone who's in the Real Friends Discord, you know, I put out a schedule the other day, but I'm altering it a little bit. I'm altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it farther. Like Darth Vader, obviously, but because I do want to get Back to the Future 3 in here quicker on the schedule. So yeah, any final thoughts on Back to the Future 2? I think I'm good.
I think I'm good as well. It was great to rewatch it. Been a while since I rewatched that, and I'm very excited to rewatch Back to the Future 3 again, get some notes down, and pick apart that movie.
Right on. Yeah, I love, two of my favorite trilogies, I've already talked about them, but are Back to the Future and then the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it cracks me up because the third Back to the Future, they go to the Wild West. The third Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they go to feudal Japan. It's like, it's so cool to see these characters I love go into like different time periods and check it out. They're so different.
That's a big thing that I like whenever any movie, any game series, whatever, like they take that extreme that you wouldn't expect it to go, and it's like, wow, it makes sense, but why?
Like Predator, like when with Prey going back to Native American times, dude. I have said this and I mean it. Predator, go to any time period at all, and I'm gonna watch you, because Prey was incredible, and I'm sure like they're building up to another Alien versus Predator movie at this point. Did you watch Alien Romulus?
I've seen no, it's not Alien Romulus that I've seen. That was last year. It was
came out last year.
it absolutely is Prometheus. It was 2012.
Cool.
That's probably the last thing Alien I've watched.
Alien Romulus is awesome, dude. I just watched it like last week. So it's nice because I've only ever seen Prometheus in the first Alien movie, right? Toby and Nate came over for us to watch Aliens. We didn't start it till like 11:30 p.m. and I fell asleep. So I've still never seen Aliens. But what's cool that I didn't realize about Romulus, the only reason I watched it, it was up for best visual effects at the Oscars. So I was like, okay, I'll watch it. It takes place between Alien and Aliens.
Oh.
And dude, it slaps. Like Fede Alvarez made it. He can make 1 billion Alien movies. I don't care. I will watch all of them because it was great. And there's a new TV series called Alien Earth coming to Hulu. So I'm interested to see what that's like. But yeah, I think they're building up to an Alien versus Predator movie, which, hey, if they can do it better than what they did. The first Alien versus Predator movie kind of rips. I like that movie a lot. The second one was absolute doggy doo. But like,
You ever play the AVP games?
yes. Yeah, I have.
Yeah. To that same extent, it's like, oh boy, the humans are obviously not the main appeal to this, just like the games. It's like the Alien and the Predator just steal the show, especially like that first movie.
But yeah, cool. All right. So thank you guys for listening to our Back to the Future podcast. I want to go down through the schedule of what's coming up so you know what to look forward to. So this episode is, coming out on March 14th, and then March 21st, we're doing Harry Potter years 1 through 4. And then I inserted a new episode. So on March 28th, Back to the Future 3. So we're going to have that come out that day. So Jordan and I will record that between now and then. And then on the 28th, he and I are going to see Jason Statham's A Working Man. And then that podcast will come out on Monday the 31st. So pretty quick turnaround. And then that following week, Friday, April 4th, Kyle's coming back on. And we're doing Beetlejuice 1 and Beetlejuice 2. On April 11th, Rocky Horror Picture Show coming out with my friend Max. She's actually starting her own podcast with 2 of her friends that I'm going to get to join. It's called Too Stoned to Cross the Pond. So it's her and her roommate and then a friend who lives over in the UK. So yeah, their first episode's coming out shortly. I believe we're recording it tomorrow, but I'm not entirely sure. So
March 9th, folks.
Yeah, give
timestamp it.
Yeah, March 9th. Thank you. So yeah, give Max a listen. She's gonna be awesome on our show, and I'm sure she's gonna be awesome on hers too. On April 18th, we're gonna do Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman, and rest in peace Gene Hackman's Unforgiven. My friend Nate is gonna come on for that. On April 25th, we're going to do Primal Fear with my buddy Tony. On May 2nd, Mundo, Chocolate Bear from the Forest Film Club series. We're doing a series on Bond, but we're not going to go in order. Because like I talked about on the Monkey podcast, you don't really have to go in order with the Bond movies. So we're taking all of them, we're putting them in a randomizer, and that's how we're going to do the Bond series. So not sure how often those will come out, but the first one will be May 2nd. And then May 9th, one of the guys from the play, Zach, wanted to review Ace Ventura. So we're going to review Ace Ventura for May 9th. And then I have a couple openings. And then on May 30th, Katie is going to have her first time on the show. And we figured with the new live-action Lilo and Stitch coming out, we would do a live-action adaptations discussion. Then we have a couple open weeks here. Need to figure out what we're going to watch. And then we're going to do Gangs of New York with my friend Brandon. A little while later, we're going to do Jurassic Park with the new Jurassic Park or Jurassic World Rebirth coming out in July. We'll do a Jurassic Park discussion with Katie. And then we talked about it earlier with Jaws. We're going to do a 50th anniversary watch of Jaws in August. So that's the upcoming schedule. So I told you there's gaps. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 gaps between now and August. So any movies you guys want us to watch, let us know. You can see all of our ways to contact us on here, or just throw a comment on any of our podcasts on YouTube or anything like that, and we'll put you at the top of the list. So,
Nice. That I'm excited for a lot of that you just said there. Big thing I didn't realize is that Lilo and Stitch is getting a live action adaptation. That is
Really?
news to me. Yeah, that is the first I've heard of it.
So as soon as we're off this, go look up. He actually looks kind like, I'm not saying the movie looks good, I don't know, but the way they made Stitch look actually looks good. So compared to that abysmal Shrek 5 image we got, where Shrek looks like an idiot. I did see a meme that perfectly embodies me though. It was, dude, Shrek looks like crap. Dave, you're almost 30.
Yeah, I saw a meme as well. It's like Shrek and his family go to the real world and find out that Shrek's a meme. Oh no, there's certain memes that we know about that I ain't gonna get into discussion with this podcast. Okay, I will say, since you said it, yeah, live action Stitch looks sick.
Yeah, it does look pretty cool.
That looks really good.
Yeah. So yeah, that comes out in May. So hopefully I'll be able to see that movie at the drive-ins. I love Midway Drive-In. So check them out. Drive-ins are even more rare than movie theaters at this point. So go to AMC, go to Regal. I'm telling you, like I said on the last podcast, I know it costs like $20 to see a movie. But if you spend $25 a month, you can watch as many movies as you want at both AMC and Regal. Like, do it. There's at least 2 movies a month for that, you'll be interested in seeing. And if you're listening to this podcast, we're talking about a whole lot more than 2 movies a month. So seriously, check them out. All right. So this week, I want to talk about a couple things coming out that you should watch. So on the 13th, a movie called Odessa comes out on Hulu. Looks very interesting. Kind of gives me Scott Pilgrim vibes a little bit, so I'm interested to see what that's like. And then Black Bag comes out on the 14th. Novocaine, The Day the Earth Blew Up, which is the new Looney Tunes movie. Opus, the new A24 movie, comes out. And then I have heard awful, awful things about this movie, and I'm very upset because it cost $300 million to make. Netflix's Electric State with Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt. I saw it had like a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Hey, you don't have a penny in it. You shouldn't be that upset about the cost.
Well, no, here's why I'm upset. Because we spent $300 million on a direct-to-streaming film that's bad. We could have given someone like Sean Baker 300 movies at $1 million a piece.
That's fair.
Like, that's why I'm upset. Like, we need to stop making horrible movies. But it's straight to Netflix, so whatever, I guess. We will discuss Back to the Future 3, and we're also going to go see Working Man, so you will actually see us recording in person together. Give a shameless plug for ourselves. If you see him right there. Last Friday, the Monkey Podcast came out with myself and Kyle. We're not getting a whole lot of traction on YouTube, and I'm guessing it's because a lot of people haven't seen this movie, but go see this movie. Mm-hmm. This movie is fun as crap, dude. If you like horror comedies at all, go watch it. It's a little bloody. My friend Kyle hates blood, and he really enjoyed it. So, You can get through it. This movie is great. And if you saw it once and you didn't like it, I'll say exactly what I said on the podcast. Give it another try. The first time I watched it, I thought it was one of the worst films I've ever seen. Second time I watched it, like the meme I put in the video, just when I thought you couldn't do anything dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself. Yeah.
Hey, that's how music can be for me too. I agree with that sentiment that there's some songs from a band that I might really enjoy them, just like, but that second listen through, man, that whole album just comes to life then.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That definitely sticks.
So, yeah. Real quick, one thing we are doing at the end of all of our episodes is, would you recommend? So, would you recommend Back to the Future 2 to our listeners, Jordan?
Oh, absolutely. Staple of cinema at this point, the Back to the Future trilogy. Say what you will, some of the stuff might be dated, but you cannot deny the impact that it had on theaters at the time and how it has definitely opened up through either pop culture references or just overall how movies that have some form of time travel have been influenced. I absolutely recommend Back to the Future 2. Is it as good as the first or the third? Debatable, but it is a fun ride. You said the word. It is a lot more fun of a film because of some of the set pieces. And normally when you hear, "Oh, that movie was fun," it's a nice way of saying it was bad. No, like in the true form, this movie. No, but this movie is fun in a very good way. Everything about it is just it's fun to watch, it's fun to experience, and it's just an overall good time to watch.
Yeah, it's a movie you can throw on at a party and everyone's gonna have fun. It's one of those movies that you can enjoy no matter when you watch it. It's great and you don't have to be too invested to love it, but you can be. So
there's nothing offensive about it. It's just it's an adventure. If you're a fan of Rick and Morty, there's a reason that the original pilot of Rick and Morty had to do with Doc Brown and Marty McFly. Yep. It is the adventures of Doc and Marty, and it's just a good time to turn your brain off and enjoy a movie.
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, well, thank you all for listening. This has been the Real Friends podcast, and we'll see you next week.